Hello, my name is Tom Gaylor. I'm the BOPS product lead, and I'm here today to share with you a demo of BOPS for processing a pre-application within BOPS. So here we can see the pre-application we've received. It's to add a conservatory onto a property. We can see it's been assigned to, and the requested services, in this case, just written advice, although we can change this if we need to include meetings and site visits. So we'll do that for this application. So the pre-application, very much like the full applications, is broken down into validation, consultation, assessment, and review. We'll jump into the validation. You can see you've got your validation tasks down the left. We can check any documents that have been sent in. Those can be validated if necessary, and further documents can be requested if required. So we could say, please add use needed to understand legislation. So we can request any further documents from the applicants if we feel that's necessary. Similarly, we can check the red line boundary, which is what drives our constraints. We can see we've got this classified road constraint here. And we can also check the description, whether that's acceptable or not. So we can just say that we're happy with the red line as well, and the constraints, they're all happy. We can see that we can check the required services. So this is what we're looking for. There's a note here that we can update the fee if we do need to change the required services and it's out of scope of the original fee charge. We can then also check the fee, say, is this correct? We can see the details of the fee calculation there as well. So yes. And then we can go to send the validation decision. As we've marked something as invalid, we can only make the application invalid. And then if we go over to the applicant's email inbox, we can see we've received an email here with the details of the application and a link to allow the applicant to upload a new document. So they can see details of what they need to do, and then they can directly add a document which goes into the back office system immediately. So that task is now completed. And then if we return to the back office system, we can see that we've now got a response to that validation request. And if we go into here and look at the review documents, we can see we've got a new document added in there. And then if we review our validation request, we see that has been responded to. So once we're happy, we can make this application valid and we can move into the next step of the process. For consultations, this is optional, obviously, as part of pre-app. So we can say whether it's required, yes, and then that adds in the consultation tasks where consultees can be added. If you want to see more detail of how the consultation process works, have a look at the householder demo. In this case, we're going to say, actually, no, the consultation isn't required, and we can move straight on to the assessment tasks. We've got some initial checks that we can go through just to check anything from validation when it gets to the assessing officer they're happy with that. Can check the consultees. But we can see that in this case, we've decided it's not required, so we're happy with that. And then we can have site history. If you set up BOPS and have all your site history imported, that will automatically show for the relevant site. However, if you are testing BOPS or using BOPS alongside an existing system where you keep your site history, then you can add that site history in here via the form as shown. Site visits are recorded as such, so we can add in the date of the site visit. And then we can upload photos taken on the day. So you can upload multiple photos at once. So we can see we've got 4 files there. And a comment can be added there. And that site visit can be added to the application. The documents will upload as well. And then we can see that we've got those documents that I've uploaded there alongside the details of the site visit. Similarly, so once we're happy that we've done all the site visits, multiple ones can be added. We can also add details of meetings, which follows a very similar process. In this case, we're going to just skip that for now. The way that BOPS works, as with the householder, is that reports are written within BOPS. They're not written in external documents, and means that templates won't go out of date. Details can be added here about the site and surroundings, and those will be added directly to the report. We add planning considerations and advice by adding different areas. So we could have an area around neighbour amenity, for example, and then we can add advice under that. So we might say that the element of the proposal could be overlooking from windows. We can attach policy guidance or particular policy references from our pre-added policy references. Let's have a look. Protection of amenity might be a relevant one here. And then we'll give a status of whether it complies, needs changes, or does not comply. So we could say needs changes, glazing must be obscured in the first windows to reduce the policy. And we can say that advice. Further advice can be added, so we might say lots of sunlight, which might be an issue. Again, we can add the relevant policy references here, so we can pull that in. And we can also say, we can add in things like sunlight calculation. We can add headings. We can also just, add various different things, such as numbered lists, or bullet pointed lists there. And we can also attach documents into that as well. So if we need to add photos or imagery in line, then that can be done as well. So we can see that we have that flexibility to build that report as we need to. Once we're happy with that, we can save it, and then we can look at suggesting heads of terms if that's necessary. In this case, we won't be doing that. And then we can look at the summary of advice. So we can see the considerations we've added around overlooking from windows and loss of sunlight, and we can give our overall outcome. So we say likely to support changes, and we can add a summary of advice here. If complied with advice, we believe this proposal to be broadly acceptable. And then we can see that outcome's been added there. And then there's just some final bits of advice that we need to do. So we need to say what application we believe should be made here. So we will say it's going to be a full householder that should be made. And we can add the requirements for this. These can be preset in the back office so that it's pre-populated with all the drawings, evidence, supporting documents, or other documents that might be required. But I'll just show you what that might look like by adding a few of the drawings to it. We can see that these will now be added. And then when the advice is sent to the customer, they will be told what documents they will need to submit. Once the assessor's completed, they'll be able to review their report with the map, the details, constraints, consultees, documents, etc., etc. And then we can see the report here below with various links to the various steps, but we can see the content of that laid out, details of when it was made valid, the site visit we had, description of proposal, site map, officer comments on that, relevant site constraints, relevant site history, site surroundings, planning considerations and advice. And we can see how that's laid out with very clear marking of things that might need changes or things we believe to be supported, summary of advice, list of relevant policies that have been added and a link to where they can be found to start making planning application, the requirements with some details around what's required, and also the next steps. You can see that our recommendation for the type of application is here, and then there's a link to the service to make that. There's also a disclaimer, as you would expect with pre-apps, saying that this is advice and not a decision. And then once the assessor is happy, they can confirm and submit that to review. Now, if we go and have a look at what the reviewer does, they review that whole report, and they've got the ability to edit any sections as they need to make sure that they're happy. So, for example, they might decide that there is further detail needed here. They can save and mark that as complete, and they can continue with their process as they check through everything to make sure they're happy. And if they're happy, they can agree with the advice and publish it, or they can return it with a comment to the officer. We're going to say in this case, we're happy to do this. And we can see this has now been decided, and an email has gone to the applicant. So if we just, we can see that they can get access to their report via a link in an email. And then you can see this is what they would see at that link is the pre-application report, the details of it. And that is the end of the journey. If you are interested in learning more about BOPS, please do get in touch. We're always happy to see how BOPS could work for you and support your planning journey.